You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Roll.
Here we go.
What is roll? Oh, I heard row your boat.
Your boat?
Gently.
Down the stream.
Down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily.
Life is actually but a dream.
What is that from, you think? There's got to be some origin to that song. Row your boat. So that's just like keep going, keep swimming, right?
Yeah.
Just
happily,
be happy.
happily,
Just be happy.
happily. Life
It
is a dream.
But a dream.
It's a dream.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
See if you can Google that for
Right
a minute
now?
while I sit here and talk about
Origins of row your boat.
That's not what this episode is about.
It might be. We'll see what we find here.
Who knows? Who knows with this podcast?
Origin.
So it is episode 308, which isn't necessarily significant other than it's coming out on, what is today's date? It's not actually the day that we're recording this podcast, so this is going to be a little fake news. This episode comes out on May 26th. So if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, yesterday, May 25th, this is all roundabout that like has nothing to do with actually what we're talking about today, but it's the 6-year anniversary of the podcast. So it's close enough. We could release this on the actual anniversary. Maybe we'll do that.
Should we do that?
Maybe that's what we'll do this week. Who knows? But anyways, it's been 6 years of the Energy is Love podcast. And then I would reach over and push the applause button.
Here we go. Like, yeah.
All the people clapping. Yeah, all the people clapping. Did you find origins?
Well, so it starts off with letting us know that the song was found, the song history was created. However, wow, words. Okay, let's try this again. 1852, apparently. And it was an American teacher and textbook author. I'm not even going to try to say that name. I think this was created just to make me sound like an idiot. I can't pronounce that. It's like alphabet. It's crazy.
Elphalalo.
Here, see if you can say it.
Is this the
Eliphalet?
person that created the song?
Yeah, apparently.
Eliphalet.
Eliphalet or Eliphalet, however.
Eliphalet or light.
So Eliphalet, Aliphalet, elephant.
What does it say why she created it?
I didn't click more on it here, so I was gonna.
That would be terrible.
It's a video.
Oh, yeah.
It's a video, so I'm not gonna do that. And then you scroll down. It's like, what is the real meaning of row your boat? And this guy explains it. And it says the boat in the tune represents your life. You are the oarsman. You are the one doing the rowing and then letting the stream of time drift you downriver. You aren't simply rowing once and then letting the stream of time drift you downriver. You are constantly rowing and trying to be the best that you can be in this life. And then I see, is there a dark meaning behind row your boat? So naturally I click on it and it says, the lyrics to this song don't have any deep, unknown, disturbing meaning, at least not that anyone's confirmed. But the origins of this song are still pretty creepy. I don't know why it thinks it's creepy. It's like, not really, but yeah, it's creepy. And then it goes into like, what is the darkest nursery rhyme?
Probably because a woman wrote it. So then it's got to be a witch.
Yeah,
it's a witch hymn. Definitely
so
witches have
even better now
poisoned us with row your boat. Maybe it's a spell that's been cast for centuries.
You're welcome, world.
Right. Okay, we can
That's
set
what we
down
got.
row your boat.
So I think we heard it for the first time today. And for all of you listening, you're welcome for that song being constantly in your head throughout the day.
You're welcome.
And if you have somebody there with you, you can do it as a round.
Yeah, music in the round. Do you remember doing that? Did you do a lot of singing in elementary school?
Mm-hmm.
Why did they have us sing so much back in the 80s?
Because that was the only way they could, I don't know, keep us entertained.
I feel like we had a lot of singing growing up.
Well, singing's fun and beautiful.
That is
why
true.
did it stop?
Exactly. That's the
Why
better
did the
question.
singing stop? We should go back to everybody just singing together and having fun and making songs and raising our vibration.
You should sing more.
I just did.
Did I miss it?
You did.
Was
I'm
it at
not
such
sure.
a high pitch that I couldn't hear it?
Well, it's not my fault. Your hearing's not.
I love your singing voice.
I love your singing. No, that wasn't in response to yours. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I see how that came off. I was panicking over you saying you love my singing. And so I was like, I love yours. But then I was like, I felt heard and seen, and I panicked because I don't love mine. So that was like my terrible fucking timing. But that was my panic of like, oh God, you've heard me. And I just don't feel like, that is scary.
So yeah, 6 years of the podcast, folks, this is what you're getting.
You're welcome.
So we were going to discuss this episode all about what we've learned over the past 6 years, specifically in regards to podcasting and also about ourselves. What do you think, babe?
Sure, let's do it.
I think that's a topic we should explore.
We got 6 years here.
There was something else that was coming up for me today when I was... yeah, let's talk about this real quick.
Okay.
So this morning I woke up. I've been a bloody hot mess lately.
Literally.
Because I don't think I have a sinus infection. I think I just have a really bad kind of sinus cold. So I've been blowing my nose a lot and drying out my sinuses and getting bloody noses. And I woke up this morning at like 4 a.m. thinking that it was actually terrible. I'm going to tell everybody right now.
Tell everybody.
You know, when you're congested, and it's the type of congestion where you can feel it like sitting in your sinuses, and you like have to rub your nose to get the itch that kind of exists in there. And so you think it's just sinus stuff. You think it's snot, but I go to like push on my nostril and rub it to kind of ease the pressure and the congestion, right? That's a thing people do. That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
And
so you're running your sinus cavity. It's like under your eye,
exactly.
on the side of your nose.
Like pushing on my face and on my nostril, and thinking that it's going to relieve the pressure, and it does. And then I realized suddenly, and I'm half asleep still because it's pretty early. I realized suddenly, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of snot that's now coming out of my nose and is on my hand, and I'm like, oh, I think it's on my face. And then it dawns on me, I'm like, I don't think that's snot. And so I reach over and I grab a tissue and I cram it up my nose, and I'm still like totally half asleep, and I'm looking like, and it's dark, obviously. And I pull the tissue out and I'm looking at it, convinced I can see what I'm seeing, even though it's dark and I'm half asleep. And I'm like, I think that's a bloody nose. So then it was confirmed. So I had to get up and clean up all this mess on my face and everything like that. And there's a purpose to this.
Yeah?
Yeah, I wasn't just sharing random information about Craig's nose this morning. This morning I was inspired to think about and write about and explore. I've been trying to meditate again in a more, like, I guess, connected way. And I'm not doing great. Like, I haven't really been able to achieve what feels to me like that space that I get to with meditation, or that I've experienced. And I've been curious as to why, because I've been doing a bunch of other things and feeling like I'm cultivating kind of a rebirth of a healthy spiritual practice for myself. And so it's kind of been eluding me as far as to why I haven't been able to meditate. And this morning I was thinking about the silence that exists in meditation, and the silence that's kind of like out there in the universe and then in space. And I realized it was a new awareness, I think, that I've had, or at least at this point in my life, of what that silence feels like. And it scared me. Like, I don't like it. I don't like the silence and the vastness of it. And it's weird because I crave it, I think, but I don't like it. And so it was just this really introspective look on what the silence is, what exists out there in the silence, and then why I am scared of it, I guess, or resistant to it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with that silence?
I think so, yes.
What does it bring up for you?
Well, there's a lot of things, right? So like
You
I
look
give
beautiful,
it
by the way.
Thank you.
I like those red
tried.
glasses.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Because I'm
yeah.
working on my root. The very, like, there's all the things like, right, the calmness, and the first thing that came to mind, I'll just say it because I don't want to, I keep trying to, like, I'm afraid to say this thing.
Right.
And we'll see whether it relates or not. The truth is in the silence. Like, you hear it, and you hear the truth in the silence. All the stuff, all the noise, and sometimes those truths are things you're not ready to face or hear or have to sit with, and they're hard.
Yeah.
So the truth, that's what I think. That's why I get nervous.
That's what stands out to you.
And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of things. Let me just throw a whole bunch over this, and I'll like sneak it's the truth, and keep going.
How's your meditation practice going? Is it like everything else in our life right now?
I'm having moments of meditating. I'm having moments. I'm not doing it the way that I feel like I'm supposed to be doing it, which is sitting down and going up to the space, and this is the time, and like getting all prepared, and like this is the meditating. That's how I want to be doing it. And like really carving out the time for myself. That's not how it's been going. It's been in little moments, and usually like where I just need a breath, kind of. So almost like a calming thing. And it's not as often as I want it to be, but it is going. The thing that, I don't know, I'm probably projecting all over you here, but you were saying how
I love that. I love it when you project on me. Get your projections all over me, baby.
Here we go. How it's not going. I don't remember how you said it exactly. Like you're struggling with it, or I don't remember the words you just used. I'm sorry, but it's not how you want it to be going, or what you're diving back into it, and it's not going how you're thinking. And my projection is like, yeah, that's the same with me. And then I realized it's because we used to go like out, and we're not doing that now. We're not like just like taking off into the astral world. We're like connecting with our bodies and going to it. So it just, we are doing it, but it looks different because we're going in and going down. Like if you decided that you wanted to just take off, I think you could do it.
Yeah.
I think you could do it. That's not what you're doing. You're working your way down.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not.
Maybe it's just the next growth for meditation, right?
You're meditating in instead of out.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I tell people all the time where it's like meditation isn't just sitting there on your butt. Yeah. You know,
the way I think I need to be doing it.
Yeah. Right.
It's that carve. It's like the ceremony of it.
Yes.
The ritual of it.
Yes. That's like, the practice of it, right? That's definitely quote unquote meditation. But I tell people all the time how it is everything else, right? It's so many different things. It's the walking meditation. It's the mindfulness. It's the being present. It's the seeing the small things and the big things. And I mean, the awareness, that all too is a form of meditation. And I totally agree with that. And that stuff I'm doing really good at.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling really connected to those things. But I want that stillness.
Yeah.
I want that silence.
Yeah.
It's like I want to drop out there into the universe where there's nothing.
Mm-hmm. I get that too.
I want to go sit in the void.
I get that completely.
Right.
But it scares you.
It scares me.
Yeah. Well, tell me, like, I gave you my thoughts. Like, what is it that scares you about it?
I think you're on it in a sense. I think there's something about the truth of what's out there that scares me. I know too that I'm also part of the resistance that I have to it, part of the block. I'm working out my fascia.
Yeah.
By the way, squirrel. So I brought up the thing on my feet.
Yeah. Nice.
So
I'm stretching out my back.
What was I saying? I got squirreled. Oh, I think part of the block for me is that I'm afraid to fail. And so if I just keep half-assing it, and if I don't really devote my time and energy to the practice of it, then I can't fail in a sense. But if I sit down and clear the space and clear the mind and devote my energy to meditation and then don't achieve it.
What did it achieve?
Right?
Right?
Right? Exactly. So I'm afraid to fail right now.
Yeah.
Because I have been confronting so many of my, what feel like my failures.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm facing all my fears and all my failures from my past and really making peace with them and allowing them space to be felt. I don't want another one that's present moment. I don't want another one to come in and be like, still failing, Craig. And so that's another part of it too. But of course, ego, right? That's somebody else telling me those things. That's not me. Because I'm not failing.
No.
I'm so successful right now in all the work that I'm doing and all the things that I'm accomplishing and things. But
you won't let yourself see it, feel it, believe it.
Yeah. There's a part of me that doesn't want to, right?
Why? Is it because you don't deserve it? Is it because it's a lie?
Don't deserve it. Because it's fake. Yeah. Just this whole self-esteem, self-worth, self-love thing. The journey of self-love. Love.
Oh, jeez.
True love. Okay, enough with the silence.
Enough with the silence.
Let's talk about this Mother Huggin' podcast.
Okay, moving on.
Tell me your experience of when the podcast started.
God, that was a fast jump. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you're asking. Are you asking for like the literal, like break it down how it started? Or are you asking?
So tell me back at the beginning, 6 years ago.
Okay.
Literally.
Okay.
Like 6 years ago today.
Okay.
I was probably in the midst of recording the first episodes and or learning how to edit or do something in regards to the cultivation and the creation of said podcast. What was that experience like for you, Stephanie?
God.
We're in a bit of a weird energy this
Yeah,
morning.
a little bit.
I'm trying to not bleed all over the microphone.
Are you? Oh, are you gonna start bleeding? Okay. Well, I was really excited.
Yeah.
I was really excited. I had this, like, I don't even know. There was something that came up, and you would listen to something, or you were listening. I don't remember. I had heard something, and of course, like, I know, like, you can talk, but it was like popping up. Like, I had these thoughts that you should do a podcast, but of course I'm not saying anything. I don't know what to say. I'm like, oh, you'd be really good at that. And it just kind of sat there. And then you had a friend that was starting a podcast and came over to interview you, to have you as like their first guest or something on their podcast. And it just like was really hitting that you should do a podcast. And that was also a particularly difficult time in our lives. And it was a really hard time. And I was also like sitting there in that moment and like uncovering hard things that was really, really challenging. And I'm sitting there and like feeling this crush inside my chest. And also like, I know you wanted to know.
Yeah, keep going.
But encouraging and being like, this is what you should be doing. So I was really struggling with momentum and not sure what I was going to do per se in our lives, and feeling like, oh, this is where you should, like, this is good for you. You should be doing this. Like, yes, it's great to be guests, but you should have your own podcast. And you got done recording, and the details are hazy because right now, honestly, I'm sitting on the floor watching you record this episode, and for some reason, I'm being transported in time to that moment. So I'm having a hard time like grabbing all the other stuff, because right now I'm on the floor and I'm in that moment. I'm having an active flashback and I'm trying to talk my way through it on a podcast.
What is the flashback?
I'm not ready to get into that right now.
Okay.
I don't feel like that's not the direction I want to take it.
Okay.
So I'm feeling like this love too, and this encouraged, like hoping. I don't even know what I'm doing, because like it's this whirlwind of emotions, kind of like I'm feeling now. And then I think you said after that you wanted to start a podcast. And I was just like, that is totally where my brain has been. Yes, yes, yes. Like I was excited. And I was just excited.
Yeah.
And I was scared. I was so excited, and like all the stuff that it wouldn't make sense to why I would say I'm scared, because I'm not getting into it right now. And like, they're like, well, why bring it up then? Because I want to, because these are my emotions. I had some fears and I'm not going to talk about it right now. Everybody's going to have to be fine with that or not. I don't care. This is how we're going. Did I move it again?
You just get up onto the table.
Okay. I come in to talk. So it was this beautiful, like serendipitous chain of events that just kept, there was good and bad and joy and pain and like all of these things that we were going through while we were like rebuilding parts of our lives and sinking and growing at the same time. We were rowing our boats. We were rowing our boats, not gently down. We were like
right into the glacier, right into the iceberg.
We got this. And then you like started going through this process of information, and you like light up in all of these ways when you're learning, and you also get really chaotic in all of these ways while you're learning. So it's this beautiful moment of watching you like take all of this on and get excited. It's like you can almost like feel your excitement around you, because here's this new thing and you're going to do it, and it's all this amped up stuff. And you are also very extremely analytical and just obsessive. We get obsessive. And so then like you disappeared. You were in this. And when I would try and engage with you, you're like, I gotta learn all of this. And this is phase 1. And you like rattled off all this shit that I was like, oh, okay, phase 1.
Phase 1.
You were spending like 14 hours a day, like immersed. And coming out like looking like your eyes are all big, and then trying to like talk and rub maybe quit rubbing your face so hard. Maybe that'll help your nose not bleed. You're like, it's like you're trying to massage your brain through your skull. And it was just like this beautiful process of stress and excitement. And when you would come up with something new and you figure something else out, and just like this passion and drive of running from one thing to the next, and also so much chaos, you know. It's a really, to look back, I don't know, it's such a cool thing. It's such a cool thing. And it's crazy. It's totally crazy. Like, I don't know how, there's a lot of people when they start, they do these like little things, they bare minimum, here we go. And then they kind of let it go, or they immediately have somebody else doing it all for them. And like, this has been your production. Like, I don't know, Craig Productions Incorporated here. Like, you do it all. You do it all. You were like booking, recording, editing, producing, like all of it. You're still doing all of it. Like, this is, all of this stuff. You have this insane amount of information, and you were like loving it and almost hating it at the same time. It was this like, I love it. It's kind of still that. You love it, and here we're going, but then there's so much work. Yeah. There's so much that you're doing. One day somebody else will be doing it for us, and so you don't have to do all this.
Yeah, one day.
But it's like this beautiful journey of reality and what it is, and the effort and the drive. You have been, your dedication to this podcast, it's just amazing. You have put I don't even know what to say. I just got distracted. I just realized how long I've been talking and I don't even know if it's clear. I dropped back into the moment. I was like in this space in my head, like retelling all of these emotions, and sometimes it gets jumpy, and I just dropped back into the moment of it and was like, oh, did I just go on for an hour there? It's been a beautiful ride. It's been a beautiful ride, and that does not mean that it has been an easy ride.
Yeah. Well, most beautiful rides aren't.
Right?
Just easy, right?
They're not. If they're just easy, do you
got to have a little bit of
even
ups and downs.
And to watch it grow, watch you continue to grow, and like it keeps shifting as you grow, it grows, and just like this. And now I get to be here for the journey too.
Yeah, I want to talk about that part of it, but
so
yeah, before we get to that part of it,
I got to take some breaths here and back away from the mic.
So I want to say it was probably in April of 2016 or something like that, where that buddy came over, Randy. Shout out to Randy Palmer. He's been on some episodes over the years, and he just started a podcast. So I don't think Randy ever got off the ground with his podcast back then, and that interview that he did with me. Mm-hmm. But over the years, he's had his own journeys and everything like that. That's not important. I mean, Randy's important, but yeah. So I feel like it was probably April or something like that in 2016, which coincides with like 1 year after our wedding, as well as 1 year after getting fired from being a cop, which meant that entire year was full of all sorts of ups and downs and chaos and unknowns, and trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do with my life now. And enter stage left, the podcast. I'm like, oh, because I think what it was earlier in the year, January, February or something like that, I was starting to think like, because we were doing energy work and spiritual fairs and meeting these cool people and wanting a way to highlight those people, wanting a way to bring awareness to the space of like energy healing and spiritual work and things like that. And I thought about doing interviews like that we could do video and release little 5-minute interviews on YouTube or something like that. So just little clips of highlighting these people. But I had zero capacity, even like brain capacity, to try to learn video editing at that stage for some reason. You know, fast forward 6 years later and we have 2 YouTube channels and tons of video production that is involved now. But back then I just couldn't wrap my brain around what that would look like or what that would take. And then, a podcast. A podcast seems a little bit easier because you don't have to do video, you just do audio. And podcasting has been around since, in one way, shape, or form, I think since the early 2000s. And there's a couple of different people that get credited with kind of being the,
original podcasters.
Yeah, like bringing it forth into the space of what it is today. But truthfully, when we started the podcast in 2016, it still wasn't, it's nowhere near what podcasting is today. And there wasn't a lot of information out there. Yes, there was, how to start a podcast and how to do a podcast and all that kind of stuff. And there were people that, you could find blogs and websites and stuff like that. But so for example, like the existence of Anchor today. Anchor is a podcasting platform that you can do through your phone, through an app, where everything is done lickety-split, super easy, and you have next to no production or editing needed. That was not in existence in 2016.
Oh, okay. I'm like, well, you definitely decided to go the hard way.
In some ways. Yeah. Right? Because the way that they've streamlined podcasting for people today wasn't there in 2016.
But your audio is also like the rarity. Your audio has been on point from the get-go.
Oh, hold on, babe.
I'm sorry.
Don't just give me a bunch of praise for the audio work.
I can't?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But what I'm saying is, back then it was still kind of like, it was probably in the middle area of popularity of podcasts. There were a lot of people that didn't know what they were still. I remember trying to find guests and stuff, and they're like, what's up? I don't know what a podcast is. It's okay, I'll explain it to you. It's just a recorded interview, right? It's like And I think that's very different today. I think we've seen that growth in the last 6 years to where I think now you'd probably be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't know what a podcast is. It's not to say everybody listens to podcasts, but I think everybody has some context of what they are at least. Mm-hmm. And all that learning curve that it took to get started was, like you said, it was a love-hate relationship where I do love consuming that information and learning a new skill set, especially if it's something that I feel like I can actually do. And the more I got into it, it was like, oh, I think I can do this. And then I started to do it and it was like, oh, cool. And then it just went bananas.
Yeah.
Where it was like, it was just too much. But it's because I didn't have anything happening, right? I didn't have a full-time job that I had to go to. There wasn't something other than chaos and drama in our life that I needed to, I just didn't have anything else going on. So it was easy to just really focus on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I think back to like those early days of hauling equipment all over the country.
Right.
So I used to travel for work, and in conjunction with that, I would pack everything that I needed for that work trip and then cram in all the podcasting equipment and then go find people that had metaphysical shops or some sort of thing out there and hit them up and be like, hi, would you like to be on a podcast? And then like go and meet these not strange people. They were all wonderful people. I never met anybody that was crazy or anything like that. But yeah, just go meet these random strangers and then sit down and record a podcast with them for an hour. So that was weird, but that was also exciting and fun. And the podcast almost died. Like there was a time period, I think it was in 2017, maybe a year after, maybe a year and a half in, where I think I just got burned out.
Yeah.
And it was too much work. And I was also, because like we do 2 episodes a week now. Mm-hmm. And for like the first 2 or 3 months of the podcast, I think, I don't remember, but it seemed like 2 or 3 months where I was releasing like 3 or 4 episodes a week.
Yeah. You would record an episode, come home, edit it, and like, what's the word? Incessantly? Is that the word?
Incessantly.
Yeah.
Obsessively,
definitely.
Yeah.
Like you would sit down and it was like, and then it would be a release. And then as soon as that was out, you got another, it wasn't until that amount of time and when it started like slowing down and then you felt like, oh, it's not consistent, that you're like, why didn't I just like bank these?
Right.
And that you had that, but it was like recorded, edited, released, recorded, edited, released. You were just like, you're hyper.
Yeah.
It's cool, actually. You can look at the chaos of it, but also the beauty of it. Like how much.
So much chaos.
Yeah.
I used to edit on planes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would be on some flight sitting there
I forgot
editing.
you talking about that.
That was a nightmare. That was always hard to do, but yeah. And then at some point it just got to be too much and I got burned out. And there was like probably a 6 or 8 month time period where we didn't release any episodes.
Really?
Yeah. And
did that happen?
Yeah.
Was it that long? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's go look. Let's see if we can find it. I'm curious too, because it's kind of like the dark ages. It's the dark period of the podcast where I don't like to think about it.
Yeah.
No, I just felt bad during that time period. Like I was failing because I really enjoyed all of it, but it was just so much. And it became hard to like find guests. And so let's see, we go from March, April. That's 2017. That still seems to be pretty consistent. Yeah, it started to get a little bit more random. Like here we go from July 24th, 2017. Oh, episode 88 with Stephanie Salazar. And then next episode isn't until August Mark Johnson. Shout out to Mark.
So July 24th to August, the very next month.
Hold on. We go from October 8th to December 31st. So there's like a month and a half. And then 2017, the last episode of December 31st or December 2017. Oh, wait, that's just like a week later in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I know there's a time period where it was like months. Maybe it was just in my head. May to June. Where is it? Is it 2019? Am I just up in the night, babe?
I don't have the same memory that you have right now.
How funny would this be?
I don't think that, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't have that same memory. I don't remember what you just said happening. But it could have. Like, obviously, I had my own shit going on. I could have missed that.
Right?
I don't think so, though.
That's weird. Like, yeah, totally in my head, I'm sitting here thinking that there was like a significant break.
That's like the level of...
Oh, here we go. From February 18th.
What year?
2018.
Okay.
To May 6th, 2018. So we skipped March and April. That's 2 months.
Yeah.
May to June. Wow, I guess it's July to... Oh, wait, July. And then is August is the next month in July. Okay. So...
and then you decided 1 episode a week. And you like double down. And then you, again, now 2 episodes a week. And then double down.
Yeah.
So what does that feel like now to like fix that or not fix, but maybe tell the truth of what that situation actually was? Because that sounds like a tool that you use to like the look at where you failed.
I've totally done that for the entire 6 years.
So now you look at it and you say, oh, that never actually happened. That failure never actually happened. That was
maybe
all
we've only
in my head.
Maybe it's only been like 2 or 3 months is the longest
Sounds
stretch.
like 2 months. Okay,
I'm sure
3.
I could
There's
go
a 3.
find it.
You just looked, Craig. So what does that feel like?
Oh my goodness.
What does that feel like to have that perceived failure that you had, that you used to minimize yourself and to shame yourself, like to realize that never happened?
Has it really been every fucking week for like 6 years?
Not every week for 6 years, no.
Sometimes it's been multiple, huh?
Sometimes it's been multiple, and there has been like a break, like back in the years where you went like 2 months without an episode, and that was like 2 times. So what does that feel like to have that, to now have the truth of that? And you keep looking for it. Like it's not there. Put it down.
Sorry.
No, not a sorry. But like you keep trying to prove that even if that was the case, that's not a failure. But what you decided was a failure isn't there. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
What does that feel like?
That seems crazy to me. It seems crazy to me that I had it in my head that it was like truthfully, it got to the point where I thought it was probably like a year.
Wow.
And then I was just like trying to be nice to myself that maybe it was only 8 or 9 months. And I was like, maybe it's only 6 months. Like 6 months was the most I would give myself. And I'm still convinced that it's like 6 months somewhere. Yeah. That we didn't release any episodes for 6 months.
So what's it? So you can't even feel it yet, even though you just went through.
I'm not convinced. I got to go back and look.
Okay. Well, on a later episode or not, maybe we'll just talk about it amongst ourselves. But
that seems crazy. I guess it's been pretty consistent, right?
Yes, it has.
That's pretty cool.
I had no idea that you had that like gap in your brain.
Really? Yeah, it's something that I've like judged myself over like very harshly.
You haven't said it, and I couldn't have that understanding because my perception is that that's never happened, which it hasn't.
It's totally been the like when it comes to podcasting, there's some things that have been ingrained into my head, whether they're true or not, right? But it's this thing of like, if you want a successful podcast. First off, don't say S's. Try to speak without any otherwise your podcast will fail. By the way, there's an S in podcast, and we need pop filters. We don't have pop filters in front of our microphones. It's got to be consistent.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the number one thing. If it's not consistent, then it's not successful because people aren't listening, right? And if it's not a weekly podcast week after week after week, and it's not consistently there, then people don't listen. They tune away and they go somewhere else because it's just not a consistent thing that they can rely upon. So in my mind, that's been like the biggest thing, is it has to be consistent. And because there was like a 6-month period
That didn't really happen.
where no episodes were released, then I've been trying to like make up for that ever since that time period. And it's like, man, I'm such a failure because I let myself down. I failed myself in a sense, right? And so I've been beating myself up for that in some subconscious way. And I guess it never happened.
Never happened.
How can that be, though? How can that be that it wasn't 6 months or...
How can it be that that never happened, that you created a way that you were failing and being unreliable and letting people down in a way to hold you back from seeing everything that you actually, like you created an event that never happened to keep the story alive in your head that you're unreliable and that you're a failure and that you can't be counted on and you can't even count on yourself.
That's sad. So one of the things that I also wanted to talk about was what you and I have like learned and gained from doing the podcast consistently for 6 years.
What did you just learn and gain?
Just more awareness. Like, it's so sad to me to think that that happened subconsciously, that some way I carried that. And then it's like, because you came in as a co-host on a regular basis around like episode 120.
I have no idea when.
Yeah, so like...
That's a whole other journey, so I have no idea.
This is weird, babe. It makes me think of like how my brain, you know, maybe just in all of that trauma doesn't see things. Because there's like a month there without an episode. Yeah, maybe it's only been like 2 months or 2.5 months or something.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Well, I have a thought and I have a question.
Yes.
So my thought is that I want to share, even if that 6 months, 8 months, year was there, that doesn't make you a failure. It's not there. But even if it was there, that doesn't equal failure. That doesn't equal unreliable. That doesn't equal any of the stories that you told yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that what you're feeling is wrong. I'm just saying the reality of it. Not that it doesn't feel that way. I understand that it felt that way, even if it was there. But just the reality of it doesn't equal that. But now my question is, what other failures in your life could you have possibly just created?
Listen, lady. Listen, Mama Ramdas over there, let's not go down those rabbit holes, because
Why
clearly, because I don't want to do that right now. This is the 6-year anniversary of something that's really, really amazing and beautiful in our life.
Exactly. Okay. I
And
respect you.
we can do that on episode 309.
God forbid we don't not want to try and dig into proving that maybe these failures aren't really real and that you're really not a failure. I understand. Like, no way. We're gonna keep moving.
Hey, projecty McPreg. I can't.
Easy with those. Don't throw something out at me.
Projecty
I'm gonna, like,
Miss Projector.
Projecting this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's something to look at.
It's
It's
very
something to look at.
interesting.
Something to get curious about. It's
Yeah.
nothing that you have to dive into right now, but it's something that is now there.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe my failures aren't really as big as they.
Maybe they don't even exist. I'm not saying that you're free from mistakes and free, but maybe you've created these things that aren't even real. Maybe you had like this much of it, a pinky of it, and you decided to make a whole handful.
Do you want the fascia for your feet?
No, I'm okay. You go ahead and keep working your feet. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe that's the case, babe.
Maybe. Who knows?
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
The idea that all the things that I criticize and judge myself, like you said, maybe they're not real. And maybe it's, like you said, just a small mistake that has become a lifetime of shame and guilt and self-abuse.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't even really happen.
Our ego has a brilliant way of selective evidence gathering to create stories.
Maybe I'm really successful.
Maybe you are. What if you are?
Right? What if? Okay. So for the past 6 years, this podcast has been a consistent show and a consistent thing in our life. And it's given me so much. It's taught me so many different things. Like, I'm totally podcasting, editing, producing. Like, if you
Genius.
want, right? If you need help starting a podcast, don't come to me, because there's plenty of other people that are doing that for like paid gigs. Like, I can definitely point you in the right directions of where to go. But yeah, I have that massive skill set now. And that's been really, really helpful. And we're seeing how that's helping us in so many different avenues as we continue to grow and expand. So that's cool. And like, it was really nice to transition from talking to people as a cop and being able to talk to people as, you know, a host of a podcast. That was really nice. Like, it was nice to take some of those interviewing skills and the ability to get people to talk, but in a completely different way. So that's been nice. And I think the biggest thing, I mean, yes, we've had amazing people on the podcast and really cool guests and, all sorts of different experiences, and we're going to continue to, right? That's the cool thing, is it just keeps growing and expanding. But I think I mean, truthfully, we could probably chalk it up to like saving our marriage in some way.
Yeah.
I think about because it is around episode 120 where, 3 years ago, because that was in 2019, when you came on the podcast not just as a staple, but as a co-host and co-creator, and like really brought yourself to the podcast. And I think that was a big shift and change in our relationship. If you think about it, in 2019, how cool is it that was also like the year before 2020, right? And
Yeah.
like, there's all these things looking back now, and even though it's only been 3 years, where we can see how much that has benefited us. And sitting down here week after week after week after week after week, turns out, very consistently, having these conversations and connecting with each other through all sorts of different stuff. I mean, I don't know if I could recommend anything better for people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be able to consistently show up with your partner and do something that, I guess you have to be passionate about it. I feel like we're passionate about this. It's not to say, the path to saving your relationship is a podcast, but being able to show up and do it together, I mean, that just made all the difference for me. I feel like that was kind of what was needed too. Not kind of, I feel like that was what was needed. Where it's what it was always supposed to be. Because you were such a huge supporter through all of it. And it was just like waiting for you. It was waiting for this. Like, I love how we have it now. I love that we have a studio in our house. I love that we have a table that's specific. Like, this table was bought from the Goodwill, DI, Salvation Army, whatever you want to call it, wherever you're living, right? The used table store. And I feel like this was our podcast table. Somebody made this a long time ago, and it finally found its way to us, and like, it's our podcast table. And so many different things. And I'm so grateful for all of it.
Me too.
What did it feel like for you when you started co-hosting?
Oh, it was terrifying. It was terrifying on every level. What does it need to do? Does it need to come back?
Again, yeah.
Is it? I think it moves.
It could.
I think it moves.
It just is so
I'm
in
just
love with you.
magnetic, and it just like pulls.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh God, resist.
Oh no.
My avoidance came in like, no, gotta get out of here.
Codependent relationship with this microphone. It wants a commitment with me, and now I need to get away from it.
How funny. Like, I am such an avoidant person generally, and such an anxious, like, anyways, that's a whole other podcast. Once you break through those barriers, I have to swing from one side. Anyways. Okay, moving on. Whoa, nervous. Okay.
Yeah, how did it feel when you first?
It was terrifying. Terrifying. Like, we have like all this history, right? All of this intensity in this, as we have like brought up for parts of this episode. And my value of myself was so low. So not only was it terrifying of not feeling like you really wanted me to be a part of it, feeling like I wasn't good enough, feeling like me being a part of it was just going to bring it down. Like, I have nothing of value. I had like anything was just going to bring it down. And then you were going to lose this thing because of me, or that you were going to stop wanting to do this thing because now I was like, it was so hard and scary. And all of these like reasons of why it was not going to work because of all these things, all this self-worth, I did not know how to use my voice. I didn't know how to speak. So I had all of these reasons of why it was a terrible idea. So I didn't have to speak. So I didn't have to like try. I couldn't. Like, you had to work so hard for so long just to get me to talk. It was terrifying. Like, I'm just thinking about it and I can feel the knot in my throat building. And like, my mouth is getting dry. I'm been doing this for a while. You got used to the video.
3 years.
And well, when you say it like that, I'm like, oh God, it's only been 3 years. That's not very long. No wonder I still can't talk. Oh my God, I can't lose my, like, start panicking. It's like my jaw's
coming up on over 200 episodes.
Getting tight. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, I was terrified. Terrified. And then it started to like switch. I still get nervous. I mean, like, even this, like, knowing it's our 600 6 year. And like, I was like, oh, I got to do something. What should I do? Like, I'm going to put on a little bit of eyeliner, and that doesn't work. I just look like, I don't know how to put on eyeliner anymore. Jesus. So I'm trying to I could put on like actual makeup.
Nice.
I have some BB cream on my face instead of just, well, it's not foundation. It's like tinted moisturizer.
Okay.
So I put like real makeup on, and then I painted my nails because that's what, you do. But I'm so unused to having my nails painted that I keep like thinking there's something on my hand. I'm going to be like a cat trying to shake the tape off its paw. Like, what is on me? Like I tried to like to bring it, like I've got to, a little extra, right? Just trying. So I still get super, super nervous. And there's times I still can't talk. And there's times that, all of that. So it's not without fear, and it's not without, I guess it's importance, really. So it's not so much the fear now. It's just that it's the value. It's so important. And I have so much respect and like adoration for it that I want to show up in all of these ways. Because it's so important to me now. As before, it was just like, you're placating me and like all of these things just so I didn't have to talk. But then it started to shift. And I started to feel like only word stuff. It was almost like therapy sessions, and not like using you as a therapist. It was like we would talk out so much. We've talked out so much.
Yeah.
And there was like all this anonymity because we're just voices. They don't know who we are. We can say anything. And I was still like, so I started learning how to use my voice, and then learning how to communicate my feelings deeper. And then I was hearing you, and like back and forth, it was like this. We learned how to communicate with each other, and we would turn it off and the conversation keeps going. Like, it's like the podcast was the spark of the conversation.
Yeah.
And then all of it came after. And like we started building on these whole new levels. And then I would have these demons to fight again when, if somebody said they listened or recognized or commented, I'm like, oh, fuck. I couldn't like handle that. And then the video, I'm like, it was super hard. And then I've had clients who have said like, oh, they're going to listen. I'm like, oh, well, you're not going to want to, I've like literally said, you're not going to, well, thinking they're not going to want to come be my clients anymore. Cause now they've heard the real talk, you know, all of these things cause when, you're working with a client, you're not like, okay, now let me tell you about me. You don't have to, talk about all the things that's going on in your life. You're there for them. And anyways, how much more to go into that I won't. So it's been like a constant finding out that I have a voice, and finding out that it's okay to be seen, which is still so fucking hard. Like right now, that camera is red hot and is burling into my face, and the mic's coming at me again. So we have, I think it did too, was a huge part of our marriage, because we were lucky enough to have all of this time to trial and error our lives together, and to keep talking, and to keep going, and to keep connecting. And like we're the podcast was the priority, but we were the priority, and it kept building. And so like, even if like nobody's listening, which we know they are, because we have wonderful people reaching out and letting us know the difference we've made, which how cool is that? How fucking cool is that?
How cool is that for you? Like, I still get blown away by it.
I haven't thought we've like stopped doing it for months and months on end. So how cool is that for you, Craig?
Yeah. It is very cool to think that there's people, 6 years in, and it still surprises me that there's somebody out there listening that actually is like a fan of the podcast and benefits from it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's part of the reason, like, as we're talking about this more and more and more, because over the years I've had all sorts of different things that I've told myself, right? Like, if you want a successful podcast, this is what you have to do. And I haven't done any of them, other than a apparently being consistent. But it's like I did the bare minimum when it came to social media when the podcast started, right? We did
I do the bare minimum, Craig.
well, when it started, there used to be an Energy is Love podcast, Instagram, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And I did that for like, I don't know, 2 weeks or something. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And I mean, there's just been so many different things over the years. Like we didn't have a website from the get-go. That's something that came later on. I think I did a Facebook page at some point. The Facebook page may have been at the beginning too, but it's just like, so, I mean, hiding, right?
Okay.
The level of what we share now on social media
Yeah.
is really within only like the last 2 years. And
You've been growing too,
Exactly.
right? You've been growing.
but I see that part of myself not wanting to be seen.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
It's scary as shit.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Like you said, it's like finding out that somebody's listening. Okay, cool. That's great. Thank you for listening. I'm very grateful
Right?
for people to listen to this podcast. And
When you meet them face to face too, and they're
Right.
like, "Oh," you're like,
I know, like which episode? Did you listen to that episode?
Right.
Okay, you listened to that one? Good. Cool, yeah. Oh, you listened to a lot of them? Awesome.
right? It's
Yeah.
so scary.
It's very scary.
It's okay to like know that it's me, but like that right there.
Yeah.
You've done such a good job.
We both have.
Let's face it. I am showing up on the podcast. I am showing up when we record.
Yeah.
I bring me. I bring joy. I bring chaos. I bring pain. I bring enthusiasm. Like wherever I'm at is what you get. I show up. You get to see me grow. You get to see me fail. You get to see like help and like all of the things. Like I show up. You show up too. That's not like you also like you do all of these things like the facilitation that we do back and forth. This love, you see it. And anything after that is beyond what I can do. So first of all, the producing shit. I mean, could I learn that? Maybe. Not as fast as you, guaranteed, because I cannot sit, I don't know, maybe I would have that fixation for a while. Could I maybe learn that? Yeah, that's a possibility, right? There's the intellectual, technical, logical. That's a good sign that I could do it. I could probably learn that. I'll give myself that. But the ability to keep going, and that social media is so hard for me to keep going. The information that you go, the time, the effort, the dedication, where it doesn't matter, where you don't stop. This podcast kept going because of you. So yes, I'm an integral part, or whatever word I'm supposed to use here, because I'm a professional speaker, so it's good that I got the words. But this is going because of you. Like because of you, It's here. So all of this like growth, and you're like, I didn't do this from the beginning. You didn't do absolutely everything from the day one. Like that's okay. But you built yourself and got comfortable. Like it's here because of you. You can't feel that, can you?
No.
I feel like that's just like, cool, thanks. It's like, I won't put it on you anymore because I can tell you, but like that's just the fact of it. If this was up to me, we wouldn't be here. I'm not saying you and I wouldn't be here, but who knows, maybe. This podcast definitely wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay. So if it's okay that I'm not the reason that this podcast is here, that's okay. It also means that that's okay that you are the reason it's here. Like that gets to be okay too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. it's really hard for me to take credit. For the work that I've done. I mean, just period, right? In life. It's really hard for me to see. I have to turn it outwards, and I have to be like, you've supported it from the beginning, and you were the inspiration for it, and because I can't see the value that I've had, and that I've brought. I'm afraid that if I take credit for it and own it in a sense, and kind of like, then I'll be like cocky and braggadocious.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. It'd be not allowed to be proud of yourself.
Don't, please don't. I hear what you're trying to get me to hear, and I feel what you're trying to get me to feel and help me see.
Yeah, it's just that understanding.
But yeah. Yeah, you show up and you sit down week after week. And you show up. You truly bring yourself to the podcast through it all. And you have supported everything about the podcast through thick and thin. Because it has not been without trauma and chaos. But I created all of it.
Yeah, you did.
I love our fucking logo. And, I created that. I mean, I didn't create Metatron's cube. Can't take credit for that.
You designed our logo.
Yeah, I designed it.
Yeah.
Learned how to do all of this stuff.
All of it.
And it's not like, brain surgery, but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a background in audio engineering.
Who's to say it's not brain surgery? You don't know which is harder.
That's true. Let me operate on your brain.
I'm not saying that.
And I'll decide. Turns out podcasting is way harder than brain surgery.
Podcasting may be impossible for a brain surgeon. Just different parts.
Yeah.
There's no measure.
Yeah, it's been a big hustle. It's been hard. It's been a lot of work. I talk about how it's the longest running thing that I've ever done before, with the exception of our relationship. Being a dad. And just being alive. But I've never had a job or a career that's lasted longer than this podcast. And I've never done something that I was passionate about longer than this podcast. A lot of work that I've been doing lately, babe, is on these boundaries for myself and recognition of how I don't set any boundaries for myself, and don't honor myself by setting those boundaries, and the consistency of showing up here every week. I mean, what's 52 times 6?
Ask a brain surgeon. Hold on. 312.
Okay.
312.
And this is episode 308. So wow, that's 4 episodes off from 1 a week for 6 years.
Okay, can you kind of now reframe the failure illusion that you painted to hold yourself down? Can you kind of reframe that just a little bit now, maybe?
I guess.
Yeah?
I'll work on it.
You work on it now?
Yeah, I'll work on it.
That's really beautiful. That's perfect.
I'll work on it. I've been thinking about, because it's been really hard for us this last couple of months to show up and record as often as we have to in order to have 2 episodes a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then the post-production that's involved with content for 2 episodes a week is a lot of work. And I've been thinking that we need to take a week off.
Yeah.
And we might, but at this point, it feels like this honoring to myself in a way. It feels like we set a goal for this year, and we've had a couple of weeks that we've missed, like where we only did 1 episode, and that's okay. But it's like at this point, I want to keep going. I want to keep going with 2 a week. I want to keep going with this work, even though it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
I was up this morning at 4 and then fell back asleep in some sort of deep meditative state and woke up at 7 and started editing so that the episode can be out in time. It's just a lot of work, and I'm okay with that. And I want to keep going and keep up with 2 episodes a week.
Yeah. We can do it.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
And we are. And we're almost into June, so we're halfway through 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a thought that I want to share.
Okay.
Too. I keep I have a thought. Is it a failure if we take a week off?
No.
Just the awareness, just there. Yeah. We're humans. There's lots going on.
Yeah.
Second thought is, can you remember the last time there was a day, just one day, 24-hour period where you did nothing on the podcast? No editing, no reels, email, one day where you didn't do anything on the podcast.
Not in recent time, definitely not in 2022.
Can you think about where you've done one day? So definitely not in 2020. So at least not in 6 months have you gone 24 hours without working on the podcast?
No.
Okay. So we don't even need to go further than that. We can, but we also know that you'll create failures that don't exist. So beyond that.
I think when I went, when Asher and I went camping last fall, or at the end of the summer.
Fall?
Yeah. When we were out, out of range, out of cell service.
We went out of cell service.
Yeah.
Then you had that time.
Yeah. But I think I scheduled stuff.
I think you did too. But still, that's okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay. You gave yourself that time. So that's just some awareness too of your dedication.
Yeah.
And, oh my goodness, I had one more. Oh, yes. So we had a goal of doubling the podcast.
Yes. In 2022.
And that's happened months ago.
Yeah.
Just, that's all. Gave yourself a full year, and that's already happened, and we're still growing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll start feeling it.
Yeah.
I'll bring my head up out of the weeds and recognize that we've accomplished a lot, and I've accomplished a lot.
Yes, we have accomplished a lot.
Yeah, I've accomplished a lot.
Yes, you have accomplished a lot.
Yeah, I've dedicated and committed myself to this.
Mm-hmm. I'm really happy to be a part of this journey with you.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I'm really happy that you've created this journey for me to be a part of.
Right, it's so beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
It's really, really beautiful. I love that we get to do this.
Me too.
It's such an amazing thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I love you.
I love you. We love you guys.
Yes, we love you.
This will very quickly now just turn into a love fest.
If you approach me in public and say you listen and I get all weird, now you understand. It's just because I don't know how.
Yeah.
Let Craig know that he hasn't felt. Say that right up. You have not felt.
That'll be
right
a
out of the
way.
gate. He'll be ready to receive it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Definitely don't say that to me. You can say that to me if you want. I will only then choke you out. No, I'm teasing. Thank you for all the support over the years of 6 years of this beautiful podcast. And I wanted to get into like advice if you want to start a podcast and everything like that, but that's not important right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say hug a podcaster. They work really hard.
They really do. Yeah. If you've got a consistent even if you don't have a consistent podcast, you're still doing something hard. It's hard to put yourself out there and show up and hope that people will resonate. And the ones that resonate with our podcast, thank you. Just thank you. And if you want to continue to support the podcast, we've said it from probably the beginning. I don't know. I don't remember all the things that I used to say back in the beginning, but truthfully, all you have to do is listen. That's the bare minimum. And then like one step above listening is tell somebody about it. And that's really all we ever ask. That's enough. That's all you got to do. And there's a bunch of other things you can do. And those things are cool and awesome and important and amazing. But truthfully, listen and tell somebody about the podcast. Because that's what it's all about.